On January 22nd, 1879, the British suffered the greatest defeat ever inflicted upon them by a native African army, where a force of 1,550 soldiers were annihilated by the Zulu tribe of South Africa. Our film begins in December 1878, where we are presented with rituals of two quite different societies. At a huge rally in Zululand, a bull is slain, and lines of young men and women dance together in ceremony in which the warriors select their partners. King Cetshwayo is their king, and is shown to be a powerful but peaceful leader. He is happy to accept the agreed boundaries with the British along the Buffalo River. Meanwhile, in British South Africa, in the province of Natal, the colonial British, both political and military, are seen at play. They too have strange rituals. When a newly arrived local officer, Lieutenant Verica, enters the regimental officer's mess, the call goes out, stranger in the mess, and he has to down a whole cup of wine in one go or buy everyone a bottle of wine. At the same time, the British military is preparing for war by recruiting anyone who is willing to join them, and at the same time, training the local African troops who are called the Natal Native Contingent, with only one rifle per 10 men. As women play gentle games in the sunshine, the men plot war. The British High Commissioner for South Africa, Sir Henry Battle Frere, goes against the wish of London by issuing an ultimatum to King Cetshwayo. The British High Commissioner is convinced that the Zulu Kingdom represents a threat to British interests in the province of Natal and Transvaal. He sees the Zulus as barbarian savages and Cetshwayo as a ruthless leader who has executed thousands of his own people. Sir Battle Frere then sends one of his Natal natives to King Cetshwayo to deliver his impossible terms, which demand that King Cetshwayo should disband his whole army, his whole military infrastructure, and allow missionaries to freely preach and convert his people, meaning he'd have to lose his total independence. The king obviously rejects these terms, and upon hearing this, Frere declares war on the Zulus. He tells his colleagues that victory will bring the final solution to the Zulu problem. Lord Chelmsford is the military commander who will lead the war to teach the Zulu people a lesson. Supremely arrogant, Chelmsford views the invasion as an opportunity to achieve fame as a great imperial warrior, boasting, "For the savages, as for the child, punishment is sometimes a blessing." On 11th January 1879, the British forces crossed the boundary of Buffalo River and enter Zululand through a small trading post at Rock's Drift to launch the invasion of Zululand. Upon hearing they are crossing, King Cetshwayo gathers his whole army of 30,000 soldiers at his royal capital Ulundi and gives a final speech before sending his army out to face the British. After 10 days, the British forces reach Isandlwana, a small plain below a mountain where they make camp. An experienced fighter tells Chelmsford that he should assemble wagons in a defensive position. Chelmsford says there is no need, leaving the camp dangerously exposed. Meanwhile, the Zulu general orders some of his men to chase a white man who will lead them to the British camp, where they will pretend to be deserters and give false information about where the Zulu army is. The British scouts capture them and afterwards beat them to extract information regarding the location of the main Zulu army. In a strategic move, the men lied that the Zulu army is to the east and the British commander falls for it. During the night, Colonel Danford and an escort of 50 African cavalry men approach the camp. Colonel Danford tries to convince Chelmsford that the Zulus are to the north and not the east. But Chelmsford ignores his advice, then orders him to return to his unit and bring all of them to the camp for reinforcements. Reacting to false intelligence, Chelmsford leads half of the British army, including the best infantry, cavalry, and artillery units, on a wild goose chase, far from the camp, in pursuit of the Zulu army to the east. On the day of battle, Danford and his troops arrive at 11 a.m. at Camp Isandlwana. Meanwhile, the Zulu captives escape from their torturers and regroup with the Zulu army, informing them of the British direction and strength. After having lunch with Colonel Pullin, and Lieutenant Vereka. Danford quickly decides to take his own command out from the camp too, and scout the Inyoni Heights. The entire Zulu army is later discovered by men of Lieutenant Vereka, troops of scouts. Chasing a number of Zulu herdsmen trying to hurry away their cattle, they can't believe their eyes, because they've just discovered the main Zulu army of 20,000 men is just sitting silently at the bottom of the valley. Upon being discovered, the Zulu army, without any orders from their superiors, rise and descend upon them, while forming the classic buffalo horn formation. Lieutenant Vereka sends Lieutenant Rowe to warn the camp that they are about to be attacked. The Zulu army surrounds them and sing their war songs as they get in position. Once in position, the Zulus launch their attack in the classic buffalo horn formation, with 2 horns attacking each flank and the main force as the chest of the bull in the center. Danford's cavalry retreats to formation to hold back the Zulu advance, but is soon forced back. The British infantry form their thin line and battle commences. As they were trained, the British fire their machinery Henry rifles in an orderly and disciplined way and inflict terrible damage on the advancing Zulu ranks. The British also take heavy casualties, including the battery of Congreve rockets, which is overrun by the Zulus. Initially, the British infantry succeeds in defending the camp, but there's too many Zulu warriors, and rapidly, the British soldiers start to run out of ammunition. Quartermaster Bloomfield refuses to issue replacements to the native troops, whom he distrusts, and to make matters worse, the ammunition have lead screwed on them. It takes far too long to open them, and resupply the men with the ammunition they desperately need. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Harford relays news from Isandlwana with urgent requests for reinforcements, but instead, Colonel Krelok lectures Harford on military etiquette and does nothing to facilitate the request. At Isandlwana, the British units defending the camp are now becoming dangerously spread out and are obvious to the Zulu forces moving around the side of the mountain in an encircling move. As the British break apart, Colonel Danford becomes trapped in the camp. Hoping to save his men, Danford orders his African cavalrymen to retreat. As British infantrymen begin to run out of ammunition due to the quartermaster's incompetent distribution, the British cavalry are driven back towards the camp. The British are now reduced to bitter hand-to-hand fighting. The British use their bayonets, while the Zulus use their assegai spears. The Zulus have now succeeded in breaking the British lines. Overwhelmed by the sheer number of Zulu warriors, British soldiers and their African allies are slaughtered in the camp, some being cut down as they attempt to flee towards the river. One of the British soldiers take aim at the Zulu general and gun him down. During the last minutes of the battle, the camp commander, Colonel Pullen, entrusts the Queen's colours to Lieutenant Melville and Lieutenant Conghill, who are instructed to escape with the colours. After having entrusted the Queen's colours to the lieutenants, Pullen returns to his tent to write a letter to his wife. He is discovered by the escaped Zulu prisoner, and unwilling to shoot the soldier, the elderly Pullen is killed in his tent. Lieutenant Melville and Conghill are joined by Lieutenant Vereka, and they ride as far as the Buffalo River, but are followed by fast-moving warriors. Colonel Danford is killed along his infantrymen. Zulu warriors are also along the river, hunting down British and African infantrymen attempting to cross the Buffalo River. The 3 lieutenants carrying the Queen's colours are captured. Lying wounded, Vereka shoots and kills the Zulu wielding the colours, and the colours fall into the river, where it's carried out of reach. In the evening, Chelmsford and the rest of the British army return to Isandlwana to be greeted by the sight of their slaughtered comrades. What's up guys, my name is Six Lion and we make videos based on lifestyle, culture and entertainment. Subscribe and like for more, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.